Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to our continuing series, our interview series for the Margaret Chase Smith Library. We are nearly 50 interviews at this point throughout this past year and a half. And today we are going to be talking once again about National History Day because I'm the interviewer. For people who have been watching our series, typically my boss, Dr. David Richards, is the one who conducts these interviews. But anytime we do anything connected to National History Day, of course, since I'm the state coordinator, John Taylor, I guess I should say my name, then we usually have me interview our guests. And today we have a very special guest. Last week was our national contest for National History Day, and we have a national winner here this year from Maine. And so today we will be interviewing Maya Faulstich. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. I had a weird mental breakdown right there. So yes, Maya Faulstich from Frank H. Harrison Middle School and her teacher, Charlotte Agell. Welcome.
Great to be here.
I guess I should say that Maya won second place at the national contest this year for her junior individual performance. And before I go into what your performance was about and why you chose the topic and all that kind of stuff, I want to read you something that I received from a colleague of mine. Now, the beauty of having the virtual contest these past couple of years has been that we have been able to have judges from all over the country and even the world participate and look at our projects. And so we had judges during our state contest from many other states, including Indiana, Alabama, Arkansas, things like that. And so one of them was my colleague from Arkansas, who is one of the coordinators out there. And she wrote to me just the other day and says, "Hi, John, I just wanted to say congratulations on Maya's second place finish in junior individual performance. I had the privilege of judging her for Maine state competition. I loved her performance and her topic. I haven't seen the first place finisher. It took some work to beat Maya." So that came from the coordinator in Arkansas. So Maya, tell me, can you give me just a little bit of a brief rundown of what your performance was about?
Sure. So my performance was about the organization Keep America Beautiful and how through history and even today, they have been sort of a negative effect on the environmental movement because they've been pushing individual responsibility instead of corporate responsibility. So basically bringing out the message that, you know, picking up litter and trash is the individual's fault and we're the ones responsible for that. Mm-hmm. Then when it's really the producer's responsibility since they're the ones making the trash. And so a lot of times, like, it sounds like it's a great organization just when you look at it, but if you really dig deeper, they don't support bottle bills, they don't support EPR. So I really wanted to show that to people because we're so used to hearing, oh, don't be a litter bug, you know, things like that, because it's been drilled into our brains because of Keep America Beautiful. And so the way that I told this story sort of was through Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, but I tweaked it to do my own. I called it A Climate Carol. Mm-hmm. And so I had three ghosts visiting Keep America Beautiful and reminding them of, you know, what they've done to change our perspective on trash and litter.
Yeah. So how did you come up with that premise to take Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol and turn that into something like that? It's a very interesting premise. Yeah, I'm sure there was many comments on evaluation sheets, right, from judges saying that that was interesting as well, I'm sure.
So yeah, at the beginning, I was just doing research on Keep America Beautiful, and the research took most of my time. It was very important, but I think that I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I thought, well, maybe I'll write a paper or maybe I don't know. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. But then came around Christmas time and I was in a radio play of A Christmas Carol. And so I had the script with me and I was reading through it. And it really made me start thinking, and I started thinking about, oh my goodness, what if I tied this into like the climate and my National History Day project? And I was like, whoa, it kind of came on me. It was just in the
Yeah.
morning when I was reading through the script.
I remember that moment when you reached out to me and said, hey, I think I have this, and the sort of interconnection, it was like a light bulb so bright I could feel it from here.
Yeah, it
That's,
was,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, no, it felt pretty great to have like an idea. I was like, I didn't really know if it was going to work or not, but I at least wanted to try it. And then that made writing the script a lot more fun. I
Yeah.
remember at first it was sort of tedious because I was like, I don't really know like how I should structure this. But once I came up with the idea to have the go and everything, that made it a lot more fun to write.
The thing that you just said about, I didn't know if it would work or not, but I really had to try it, kind of sums you up, and why I love working with you as a creative person and scholar that you are, because you'll be like, well, you know, why don't I just try this? And, you know, I've known you since 3rd or 4th grade, and that's sort of your core self, what makes you such a good researcher and performer.
Thank you.
Yes, that's the joy of seeing a lot of these projects throughout the years, is all these different creative ways that students present their work, and for them to go out and try these new and interesting and different things is very fascinating. I want to return to the radio play for a second. Now, was that part of like a school project, or was that something you did independently?
No, it was actually part of community theater. So
Okay.
there's this program in Yarmouth that I do like a bunch of theater things with, and usually we do in-person theater, but they had to get creative this year because
Yeah.
we couldn't really do in-person theater. So they did a radio play over Zoom, which was really fun, but they did that during Christmas, and so it was a Christmas Carol. So I had the script for that, and I was like, that's kind of when it came on me. But yeah.
It's very fascinating how all this comes together. You know, as a coordinator for National History Day, you know, of course, right after the contest season last year, we had lots of discussions to try to standardize everything, and I was on that committee to make sure that the submissions might go a little bit easier for this coming contest season. And one of the things was performance. We were very concerned about performance, of how we could you know, allow students to still be creative throughout the performance process. And because, I mean, last year, all students could do was submit scripts. And we didn't really want students to really have to just submit a script again. We wanted to see them perform, and that judges wanted to see them perform. And so one of the suggestions I actually had was have students create a radio play. You know, it did get shot down, but I'm very fascinated that actually influenced your actual performance by the end of it as well. But you know, but it was also through the discussions that you actually used Zoom, right, for your performance, and you actually used it to your advantage by using the backgrounds and props. And that was another discussion that we actually had, was we wanted students that if they were going to use that, that they were going to, you know, use it to the best of their ability and use it creatively. And so that's what you did as well. Can you talk a little bit about that? How you used?
Yeah, so it was a little bit confusing at first because we weren't really sure what like platform to use and stuff. But my dad helped me figure out like how to find like a certain platform, and then he kind of taught me how to use it. And so I had like the little clicker things. I was clicking through the slides. I don't know, like sometimes when I lift my arm up, you can see a little clicker thing in my hand in the video. But oh yeah, there's my setup.
Here's an action shot of you working, doing it. So yeah, I mean, you had a green screen behind you. You're able to put different images behind you. I think you even had some actually live action shots as well from like commercials that were Keep America Beautiful, right?
Yeah. So I had those too. That was actually the hardest part. Like I was trying to put like a YouTube video in a slideshow, and then but for some reason Google Slides wouldn't let us play it, so we had to transfer it from Google Slides to it was like Keynote or something, and then yeah.
Let me just say, I learned a lot of tech from hearing you talk about your intense process, and it's so impressive that, just as a side note, the DOE here in Maine wants you know, me to write up a little bit about this. So I'm going to wait till this Margaret Chase Smith link is live and link them right to that too, as you're talking about it. It's good, you know, it's just like what technology can do.
Right.
crazy that you spent so many hours, Maya.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Well, first of all, I have to agree, especially seeing a bunch of different projects throughout the country now over this past contest season. It's amazing the technology that was used in many different ways and forms and fashions by teachers and students to create projects and keep this program going. But let's talk about your research process. So, how did you go about researching this?
So I started with, looking at some secondary resources to see what other historians had, you know, found out about the project. And so I read some articles and like things from like parts of books. And that really helped me get a better understanding of how other people like were thinking about this same topic. And but I also went to Keep America Beautiful's website, which was actually really helpful because it gave the exact opposite perspective that I was trying to bring. So yeah, they had like obviously everything they said was positive about themselves, but it was really interesting to find both sides. And I remember at the beginning I was like, I'm really trying to find something that's neutral, but I kind of realized eventually that like nothing is really neutral. So I need to like just look at both sides and kind of neutralize it myself, I guess. And then once I read a bunch of primary resources, I went to I was able to find a lot of newspaper articles from the time talking about bottle bills and litter and that kind of thing. And that made me really excited because actually my librarian told me of that there was like this 1 week when these newspapers were going to be free online, and I was so happy because I didn't want to have to pay any money. And so I just took screenshots that entire weekend of newspapers that I was and I was really happy that I could find those because those really helped me a lot.
Maya, I love how you said, and I'm looking at other historians because you truly are a historian. And I just wanted to add the footnote to this that you are a prodigious plastics researcher, the problem of plastics already. Like you have your own website, you went to like a Bennington College course or something. You're a mentor, so this came out of a true passion of yours. This is, a narrower focus out of a true passion that you already have been researching for years and sharing weekly updates with the school, what we can do. And, from the cafeteria to our general lives, you're just amazing.
Yeah, there's the reason why I did this. At first, I was a little bit hesitant to do national history. I don't really know why. I was like, it's going to take so much time. And it did take a lot of time. So,
I would love it.
Yeah. But I'm already like a pretty busy person. But Miss Agell was like, well, you can connect it to, your plastics research and everything. And I was like, okay, sure. So, so I did. And I kind of think the point that I, took away from it was that, I don't want people to stop recycling or stop picking up litter, but I want people to know that it's not enough and that just picking up litter and recycling isn't going to solve the problem. So we really need, legislation, thank you, and education and producer responsibility. And we need to really be like creative and work together and think of solutions because, doing our part isn't really everything that's gonna help.
And during this pandemic, it's been amazing to me how art, like your art of this performance, has been able to really illuminate, issues and shine light on problems. Like the purpose of art, like a performance, to really go deep and draw our attention to these issues. It's much more effective than like if we just read position papers or things like that. People wake up when they hear,
Right.
feel art.
Yeah, that's also why I got really excited when I came up with the idea to do the ghosts, because that was really a more artistic way of approaching the issue.
I remember when you were like sharing with the other kids our National History Day Thursday lunch and with me, like what the costumes might be for various ones, like, and now I'll use a Target bag or something.
Yeah.
Well, that's very interesting. I mean, you're kind of leading me into my next question, which was, what interested you in this topic? Now, it sounds like you dive deep into this area way before you did the project for National History Day. Apparently you have your own website. You want to, expound on that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So I kind of started last year with my 10% time project, which is a project where you can kind of, it's like ELOs, but for 7th graders.
Mhm.
ELOs are extended learning opportunities.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Okay, so I'm trying to find a way to describe this. Oh yeah, so basically you just like pick a topic and it's like you do your own research and you learn things and then you turn it into a final result. It's basically like National History Day, except it doesn't have to be about history. It can be about literally anything.
Mhm.
And so I did just plastics in general, which obviously a very, very broad topic, but I did mostly like learning about how harmful they are and what we can do to, help stop the plastic problem. I got really interested in that. And then so yeah, my final product was like a website where I kind of like helped other people understand what I learned. And then in June, I mentored for a actathon where through Beyond Plastics, which is an organization, and we basically showed younger kids how they can be activists and about the plastic problem. It was really fun and it really opened my eyes a lot to the world of like activists who are here also with me. It's a lot of us. There's a lot of us and I'm not alone. So
No, you
yeah,
definitely aren't.
yeah, so it was really great, and that kind of like that really opened my mind a lot. So I was really happy to do that. And then you just keep learning about new things. Like there's a law right now that just passed in Maine, which is LD 1541. Yeah, and it's an extended producer responsibility bill. So extended producer responsibility shifts the costs of disposal to the producers instead of having taxpayers pay for it,
Mhm.
because it's really expensive. So it would kind of incentivize them to use less plastic packaging because plastic isn't really recyclable, even though they think it is or they say it is. And yeah, I'm really great that passed, but yeah, we have to keep pushing for things. Yeah.
This just reminds me, Maya, for some reason, I just have to share, like the first time I met you, not really the first time I met you, but the first time I worked with you, you were in 4th grade and we were doing the awareness about the food pantry book fairy, trying to raise books so that books could also be in food pantries because, the soul can starve as surely as the body. And you joined the play that we were doing for the entire 4th grade, but you wrote your own, piece of music and sang it. And there was like the art and the advocacy even back then. So it's really who you are, and I admire it, and I'm thankful for it.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Now we're learning about that you're a musician as well. So
Yeah, one of my friends found a video of that on YouTube and we watched it. It's funny because she was also singing in it too. So I wrote the song and I played the piano and we both sang with that. It was really great. Oh my goodness, I remember that.
And what was that? What was that advocating, that song?
Oh, that was for having books in food pantries. So it was
Okay. All right.
yeah.
Great. Wow. So you've been an activist for a very long time then.
I guess so.
Yeah.
So it makes me wonder. Do you plan on doing another project for NHD next year?
I hope so. I hope I can do one next year. It would be really great. I am going into high school next year and things are going to get harder, but I really have loved the experience. So it's something that I hope I can do again.
So do you think you would do another performance, or do you think you would try a different category?
I don't know. I love performing because I just do. But it's good to mix it up. I like to try new things. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, it looks like you already have experience building a website, right? I'm sure you've had experience writing a paper. I don't know, exhibits or documentaries. I don't know. You are very tech savvy, obviously, with your
It would
performance. I don't know. You might
it
be
would
able to
be
do the
cool.
doc.
It would be cool to do a documentary. I know that this year I was considering switching to documentary because they were like, oh, you can't do any edits. And I was like, well, if I did documentary, I could do edits. But I went with the performance route. It was a little bit confusing establishing like the difference between a performance and a documentary this year, since it was a lot of technology.
Shout out to all the, all that you, John, do in general, but even specifically in terms of teasing out like what you could and couldn't do. There was a lot to read, but once you read it, it was
Yeah.
I know. It was very, very difficult to try to get through all that. Would you try to not to be so text heavy, and you don't want all the details to be buried in text, but then at the same time, how else do you communicate it without doing that with such a large group of basically, I mean, there's about 500,000 students that participate in this program every year, and so how do you get that information out without building, throwing out all that text heavy stuff? But
wow, Maya, let that sink in. 500,000 students and
500,000 students in your second place. Yeah, that's
it doesn't surprise me, actually. I wouldn't ever say that I predicted it, but it's certainly a welcome surprise, but not surprising.
I don't know. It was pretty surprising for me. I remember when I figured it out, I immediately called some of my friends, and I called one of my friends, and actually no, she called me because she found out, and she said, Maya, when you showed this to us, you were hiding under the desk. And it was
yes.
The reason why I was hiding under the desk was because I had seen it too many times. So I didn't want to see it again.
Sure.
And also, you're a humble person. I mean, you're really great at things you undertake because you undertake them with the utmost vim and vigor, but you're not like a shout me from the rooftops kind of performer.
Well, I've always found that anybody who is a performer, a musician, or someone who performs on stage for plays and things like that, they're their own worst critic, right?
Absolutely.
And so, and I'm saying this from experience. I was in band when I was in school. I still play, and it's one of those things where you're your own worst critic, and you do anything that you hear, and even the slightest mistake that you make, it's there. Nobody else does.
Yeah, definitely.
Like every book I ever published, I wish I could fix something, and you can't. But
oh yeah, exactly. Now I've never been published, but there's always things in my master's thesis I always think about. I wish I would have written that sentence or this sentence.
It's funny because like I watch it and I want to do it again and fix the things, but
of course,
so much time, you can't make it perfect ever. So you have to do what it is,
And that's something that you should learn at this age now. That you can never make anything perfect, and so that's definitely something that you should learn now.
We always say, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Yeah, you're probably sick of that saying. So, this morning, I just wanted to say this morning I wrote a couple notes because thinking about this, and
sure.
I have this silly little calendar that someone, not silly, but gave me that has like quotes about education. I wrote my little notes on the back, and then I'm like, what quote is this on? It's from some old year, and it was a Martin Luther King Jr. quote that reminded me both of Maya and National History Day, because it is, the function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Intelligence plus character. That is the goal of true education. I think you were able, Maya, to imbue your National History Day research with both elements, like the intense research, but also who you really are.
Yeah, I think,
why,
I try not to speak about things I don't know about. So it's really important to do a lot of research.
How refreshing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really important to do a lot of research. Actually, the hardest part, I think, was I did so much research that when I initially wrote my script and I timed it, it was 20 minutes long. And I was like, oh no, what do I do? So, because it has to be under 10 minutes to be part of the, to be fit into the criteria. So I had to cut it in half. That
was an act of valiance.
That was absolutely the hardest part. And I think I still have my original script because my mom was like, save it.
Yeah.
Of course.
Me too. Like nothing is ever lost, right?
Yeah. I had to cut like my entire introduction. Like there was this book I read that was fascinating, and it was like about the history of like just plastic itself that like, but starting in the 1930s. And I was focusing mainly on the 1950s and 1970s, but I wanted to do like the timeline of plastic, but I didn't have the time for that.
Yeah, you know, I mean that's the hardest part, especially when you create any project, and it doesn't matter what size it is. You know, I literally just did an overhaul of the Margaret Chase Smith Library's permanent exhibit, and you know there are still things I had to cut out. You know, and I had almost unlimited space. So, and that's a very important lesson to learn as you go into college as well, right? Because you're always going to find things that are so fascinating and interesting that you're still not be able to focus on. You know, so what would be some of those? Can you expound a little bit more on what you would have talked about, like in the with the history of plastics in the 30s that you weren't able
Yeah,
to?
so basically it started where the people natural resource like ivory and like animal products that were being used for certain things. So there was someone who said, I'll give you like $10,000 if you can find material that we can use instead of these resources that are coming from animals, because you don't want to be killing so many animals. So they so someone came up with, I forget his name at this point, but he came up with cellulose. Yeah. And it was made from certain parts of plants. It was the first type of plastic that was made. And actually it wasn't biodegradable, but now people are marketing it as bioplastic, even though it's technically not biodegradable. So that actually ties back to current stuff. But it was the first plastic that was made, and then someone else made a plastic that was completely artificially made. And so that plastic was crazy because it could be molded into lots of different things. The first one was just pretty stiff. It was like combs and chairs. But I was reading like all about the history of plastic chairs, and it's like it goes in depth so much. Like I didn't even know that chairs were that important, but clearly they're very important. So it was really interesting, but it didn't really tie very much into my project, which I guess I didn't really talk much about plastic chairs, but I did talk about how, you know, plastic started because they didn't want to use like animal products, and they didn't, you know, and then afterward people were like, oh well, it's not just a substitute for animal products, it's so much more. It can be used for packaging, it can be used for this. And the people who are making the plastic were making money off of it, so they're like, let's market something and convince people that they need it, even though they don't, but we'll convince them that they need it because we need money. So yeah, that's kind of how it started, and then it just became everywhere.
So if I'm hearing you right, plastics was actually created as with the best intentions, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To try to prevent the killing of animals and you know, ending certain species and things like that. So it's very interesting that it went from something that like that then to, oh, we found that we can sell and market this and make lots and lots of money off of it.
Right. And the thing is, the most harmful type of plastic is single-use plastics, because you know, you use it once and you throw it away and you buy another one, and that's on purpose, obviously, because the companies want you to keep buying more and more of it. So I think what is most important is that, you know, we're living in a disposable culture right now. Like we buy things and we throw them away, and we buy things and we throw them away, and it's more production, more trash. But I think, like, you know, what we're trying to push is, you know, reuse, refill, yeah, because it's not, you can't just keep buying more things and throwing them away. That's not sustainable.
Sure.
Yeah.
So does that mean, you know, maybe in a year or so, we're going to see the 20-minute version on a stage in Yarmouth somewhere? Or?
I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes people say you look like someone from my country, Greta Thunberg. Greta
Thunberg.
And,
when I had long hair and I wore it in braids, people told me that all the time.
And you're passionate. You are an activist. You know, activism works, so work. That's the poster of her.
Right. Yeah.
You do this, Maya.
Yeah.
And I'm, you know, so honored and grateful that you're doing it in so many ways in our local community.
Yeah.
So, Charlotte, let me ask you, like, how long have you been doing NHD in the classroom?
Well, I have actually, I'm the GT, Gifted and Talented Instructional Support Coordinator, K-12, English Language Arts primarily, also art and social studies. And about 6 years ago, I didn't take it over. There was this incredible woman, Marcia Newick, who used to work in our district. She retired. There was sort of a little lull. And then I discovered NHD. I somehow hadn't, tragically hadn't really known about it. But it's really just been the last 4 years that I've been suggesting it to 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. It feels really cool that I think the last 3 years we've had state finalists who've gone on to, and in one case, actually travel down to Maryland. In the last 2 years, obviously, virtually. But it's just been such a nice fit for what I truly believe is the essence of becoming, an educated person, is just figuring out that inquiry is research, and that doing due diligence, like Maya was just talking about all these books that she read and the paths that she followed, some of which that she didn't even incorporate. So basically for me, the last 4 years, I learned so much from my students. I mean, whether they go on to get this kind of glory or not, one of the beauties for me as a teacher is that the themes are always so, highly individualizable, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there are things that you learn that are, really, as a teacher, watching students learn these things. They can be truly academic things, or they can be, hilarious moments. Like we had one kiddo this year doing a really, fine project on letters from the home front, Maine soldiers writing home. And I tricked him a little bit because there's this great Maine library project that has all these things online, but of course, he couldn't read cursive. So I'm like, oh, well, now we have to study cursive. But actually, of course, there were PDFs with. So yeah. I find both really edifying and, I have to admit, entertaining, and also just wonderful to watch kids do a deep dive, and, to be able to do it, to watch them do this. The thing is that we don't really, I'm not an official social studies teacher, so the kids who take this on in our district are going way beyond. They don't really have much school time, if any. Maybe some of the 7th graders also use it as their 10% time project, but that's, not even all that common. So it's kids, we offer it widely, but it tends to be, actually a couple of years ago when we went to Lewiston, we had, maybe 12 kids, but it tends to be probably about 6 or 7 kids who just really are passionate about something. So that makes it, especially, I don't know, valuable seeming, that here's this, this project that you're going to undertake. I learned more, like Maya, from Bakota, like her project on King Leopold and the DRC, which was intensely personal because that's where her family comes from, or Will McDowell and his, just all these kids who've done these projects make it a true delight. Definitely something I look forward to offering and having kids take us up on.
Well, I'll say it's very validating as a coordinator and someone who's been a judge before, of course, in many years. I've been part of this program for nearly 15 now, since I was a graduate student. And it's one of those things where I always love seeing the light bulb go off in the student's head. And I love seeing them learn and learn new things. But it's very gratifying when I get to learn something new from a student. And this is especially true with this project. I would never have thought there would ever been this type of connections that you were making with Keep America Beautiful, and that there were such, different viewpoints at looking at such a subject like this. So it's very fascinating to be able to learn so much from a 10-minute performance. It's amazing. So. I did ask you if you wanted to do a project next year, and if you might do another category. Any thoughts on what you might do it on? I mean, based on the theme, do you even know what the theme is next year?
No.
I do.
Okay, but
Well,
what
it's
is it?
actually, I probably should have written it down, but it's about diplomacy, and that's so
Yes.
interesting to me, successes and failures. So
Mhm.
it's, you know, in a sense, narrower, but not really, because you can probably interpret many things.
Well, it's debate
You know,
and diplomacy. So
debate and
debate and
diplomacy. Thank
diplomacy
you.
and
That's
history.
what it was.
Yeah. So off the top of your head, any thoughts of what you might want to talk about or look at?
I don't
Put
know. There's
you
a
on
lot
the
of
spot.
options. I'm not really sure what road I would want to go down for next year. There's a lot of different options. I'm not really
Definitely.
I'm
sure.
just going to say that I get to ride the bus with the high schoolers. We all go to Lewiston with any luck together. So you know, it'd be great to see you on that bus,
I
but no
think
pressure.
what was I gonna say? I was gonna say something. I forgot what it was. Oopsies.
Oh,
Hmm.
no problem. Well, while you're thinking about it, I'll ask Charlotte. You know, any thoughts on next year's theme? Like, do you think there's any specific avenues you might try to?
Well, I was excited enough to, you know, to look it up and see like what comes lies ahead. So
yeah, I
you know,
remember.
just
So
you talk and then I'll go back.
okay, a lot of times I like to, you know, think about like a few different topics that I might want to do, and then like do research into a little bit of all of them before I choose which one.
Sure.
Because I don't know. I think it's good to, before you kind of like choose what you want to do, you should probably know a little bit more about it.
Mhm. I see the process of like the theme and then the kids' passions, various as they are. It's almost like I'd like to think in Venn diagrams, you know, so
Mhm.
you've got the theme and then you've got the kids' passions, and then in the middle, where do they meet? And while I'm going on, I just want to thank you, John, in particular, because you're really good at you know, virtual hand holding when, you know, the stupidest or the biggest of questions. I always usually end my emails like, I hope I'm not your most common pen pal, fearing that I am, but I suspect you do this for, you know, just everybody across the state. And it's really helpful. You never seem grumpy or upset with like, come
Oh,
on,
that's
that's
good.
on page 32 of the document. You haven't read that.
Well, that's much appreciated. I do appreciate that. You know, yeah. I mean, that's what I'm here for. That's part of the job, and you know, that I want to make sure that you know, I can set up, facilitate a contest and facilitate it as well. So we make sure that we get the best out of every student, every teacher.
I wanted to add one thing that I just found kind of a surprise bonus to being an NHD supporting teacher. A student, I forget if it was his last year's project or 2 years ago, Will, did a project on the Winter War. He's really into military history. And the Winter War was when the Finns fought off, not with any long-term success, but the Russians.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandfather was a general in Sweden, and he actually led the Swedish volunteer corps. So through a seventh grader's project, I learned investigated like what it was really like to fight in that cold northern, you know, impossible situation. So sometimes an NHD teacher might end up, you know, having a student shine a light on something that's pretty personal to them, and that was pretty outstanding.
Wow.
Wow, that's very interesting. I never even looked at it from that perspective. Yeah, but I could see that. Yeah. So before I let you
Great
go.
program. I'm sorry it took me this long.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. But we do try to keep it. I don't want to keep you for too long. I know you both of you are busy. But I do have one last question for Maya, and that is, if there is anything that we should do, you know, connected to your topic to make this better, to take care of plastics and not and take care of this issue that you're talking about, what would that one thing be? So, you know, you're talking about like doing the reusable bottle programs, things like that. What else could people be doing to make this a better and cleaner environment?
I would say, you know, research different bills that are being proposed, and you know, write to your senators and ask for their support, because it's really important to have people who support bills, because the industry also has a lot of opposition and they also have a lot of money. So they have, yeah, a lot of lobbyists. So I think it's really important to, you know, show your support for bills and things that would help. And also, you know, connect with people, share information, let people know, like if you find a certain company that's using a packaging that is like really good for the environment, that's, you know, not plastic, or maybe it's actually compostable, or maybe it's actually recyclable, you know, share that with other people and say, you know, hey, I found this and maybe you could try it or something. Because but the main thing is, you know, show your support for legislation, and yeah.
I'm glad that finally now that the pandemic, well, it's not over, but that we're in a little bit better spot, that the plastics bag bill can now finally take effect at the grocery stores and so on.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, I'm really happy about that. That's coming in July, which is
Tomorrow or something.
yeah.
Well, you know, Charlotte, before you signed on, I think I was telling Maya that I believe, I don't know this 100%, but I'm nearly positive that I believe this is the first national winner in the performance category from our state. So it's very exciting that we finally have a performance winner there. And you know, I just want to say, as the state coordinator for this program here in Maine, that congratulations for getting second place. That's a huge honor and a huge deal, and you should be very proud of it. And you should be very proud of your work. It was a very innovative way of looking at the topic and the subject and presenting it. And so, of course, when we post this, I will also post your performance. You know, of course, if you give me permission to, but performance with this as well, so other people can see.
You post her position paper too. Her position paper is so amazing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes. So, is there anything else that anybody would like to say before we sign off for this interview series? No? Okay. Well,
thank you. I bask in the honor of having advised Maya in any way, and also thanks to the Margaret Chase Smith Center and to National History Day in Maine for this incredible opportunity they give to Maine students.
Yeah.
Well, that's much appreciated. Thank you. You know, it's you know, we really do take pride in this program, and we really do love running it here at the Margaret Chase Smith Library, and also at the University of Maine. I should mention them as well.
Yes, right, and the UMO connection.
Yeah.
Yes.
National History Day is really great. I think it really opens people's mind. It really shows them how to be a historian, how to do research, and how to, you know, pull it all together.
Last time we went to Lewiston, which I guess was last year, it just seems 100 years ago, but I had one student tell me after we came back, like, this was the best day of my student life. Just seeing that other people cared about history the same way she did.
Right.
Oh, that's it. That's good. That's good.
Maya, that was a famous Sally line.
Yeah.
That's great to hear, and you know, hopefully we will have in-person contest next year. You know, we have them. We have not scheduled a date for the Lewiston contest yet, but we do have dates for our Bangor regional contest and our state contest.
Here's a question. You know, I ended up thinking, well, you're right. The silver lining that other people can watch the performances. So will they go back, I guess, to being just, you know, not? I wouldn't say just, because at first I thought, oh no, this isn't going to happen on the stage.
Mm-hmm.
But then, you know, it turned into this beautiful shareable thing. So do you have any thoughts about going forward, like in terms of the performance category? You'll probably stay live, or?
That's a great question. I think, you know, that's going to be one of those things that we as coordinators debate as we try to go through and try to standardize this a little bit more. We do know that throughout this process of having to go, you know, in the middle of a contest season last year, it's from in-person to virtual, and now be able to go through a whole contest season virtual. There are elements that we all either think would work or not work for an in-person thing. And so we are still trying to figure that out and see what those would be. One of them off the top of my head that I'm really thinking about is our judges loved the online evaluation sheets. They loved to be able to, you know, type things out, click little bubbles instead of cramping their hands trying to write as fast as they can. You know, and of course, students can read the comments a lot easier than trying to read the scribbles
really
that are coming through.
Speaking of not being able to read cursive, I had to like translate comments for kids some
Sure.
years because they couldn't read them.
Yeah, and, you know, and it's easier on my end because it's less you know, organizing and sifting through all these things to make sure it gets to the right people, the right teachers, and the right everything like that. But if to your thing question specifically about performance, I mean, I think it's going to go live still. We would do something live, but I don't know if the worksheets that they needed to fill out to explain props and that element might stay to help clarify things with our judges and everything like that. I think the big thing though is the interview section would come back if it's live as well, which is very important, I think, for judges, and it's something that judges really, really miss. But as I'm sitting here thinking about it, I was thinking that, you know, honestly, if you went down, if we would have had an in-person contest at University of Maryland this year, Maya, you would have had to do your performance twice.
Yeah.
So you would have had to have gone through the first round. You would have been chosen from that first round, and then you would have had to go again on Tuesday evening, you know, in front of a whole nother group of judges, and they have to perform for them. So that would have had twice.
Oh yeah, it was kind of tough for me too because I know like I got feedback from the people at the state level, and you know, some things I was like, oh, I really kind of want to change that, but I really don't want to do the performance all over again. So I didn't. But I you know, it's really interesting to think about the comments because like, especially when it's recorded, it took a lot of work to do the actual like recording part of it. I didn't want to have to go put the green screen back up and set it all up again just to fix like two tiny things in the performance that may or may not matter.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, I totally understand that.
If you do performance next year and, you know, advance, like you very well might, that you're just a consummate performer too, that you would roll with that. And there would be in some ways, you know, easier, like you're saying, to accommodate suggestions.
yeah.
You wouldn't have to be recording it.
Right. I feel like what you could do is you could have do a live performance, but then also have someone recording it while you're doing that, so that, you know, if you do want to share it, you can just share the video, but it's still a live performance.
Yes, now we have done that in the past. We actually did that my first year as coordinator here in Maine. We actually recorded all the performances, and we got mixed reactions to that. So we had, and it might be different this coming year because students might be you know, used to having a camera in the room, but it did kind of you know, mess with a few students that there was a camera and they knew that it was recording. So you know, that might be something that we might look into as well. So that way we also have it preserved for us as well. So,
Yeah.
but I will, I know your time is valuable, so I will let the two of you go. But I do again want to say thank you for joining us on this interview series. Once again, congratulations for winning second place in the national contest, Maya, and congratulations, Charlotte. I mean, for being the teacher of a second place winner as well. That's a huge deal as well, and that's something you should take pride in and be very happy about. So I hope to see both of you again next year for the 2022 contest. It's debate and diplomacy and history will be the theme, and hopefully we will have it will be either in Lewiston or somewhere further south. We're still trying to figure out exactly where we're going to be at, but again, thank you for joining me, and thank you for joining our interview series. So
Thank you so much. Yeah.
yes.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.